of the Catch Wrestling Alliance, where we help you to wrestle better so that together we keep real wrestling alive. That's a quote from one of my old coaches, Billy Robinson. He wrote that to Osamu Matsunami about really keeping authentic catch wrestling alive. Because basically there's and I think actually is going to go into our main idea later on. But we have a lot of different things that are kind of like drowning out authentic catch wrestling, which is a real shame, right? So like grappling right now is very popular, but actually maybe I'll wait. I'll wait to talk about it until later. So let's get over the announcements first. First and foremost, if you ever want to train with us and you're in the Los Angeles area, feel free to come and train with us. We are at Fight Science MMA in Mid-City, Los Angeles. So that's near the intersection of Washington Boulevard and La Brea. That's basically right in the center of Los Angeles. So it's really hard to miss. Also, we're still in summer break for UCLA, but I just got an email earlier from the organizer. So I'll be teaching tons of classes this next fall quarter. So that's going to start towards the end of September. For UCLA starts later on than other schools. So but anyway, towards the end of September, we'll be back teaching all kinds of classes. So if you have access to that gym, you got to be there. You got to show up because there's so many offerings there. We got a wide variety of grappling. I think we'll even mix in some of the Chinese wrestling stuff. Like so, a lot of stuff you might see on our other channel, Kung Fu Culture. We're getting an opportunity to teach a wide variety of classes. So I'll keep you posted. Once I know that everything is like set in stone and all that. So just stay tuned, right? So with that being said, I think that's all the main announcements. Besides, like I said, if you want to support us, totally can on our YouTube channel. We have a bunch of extra videos. We also give you earlier access to our videos. So once I upload them and we get a thumbnail on there, then I give you access directly. Also, we have one-off courses. So if you can't make it to LA and the two places that I teach, then feel free to train with us online on our website, CWA Academy, or that actually it's the website itself is catchwrestlingalliance.com, and you'll just look up the CWA Academy, and we got tons of like extra videos up there in the members only section. And you can feel free to ask questions, and we'll make videos like catered directly to like your pain points, your problem points. All right. So with that being said, Big Bang Mike, I don't really see him too often, but I see his videos float around on social media every once in a while, and one got sent to me directly. So he is a lifelong martial artist, and he also has done acting all his life. So he happened to be the Red Ranger on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's why that's the name of the thumbnail and the podcast today. The Red Ranger gets it because he seems to understand the state of catch wrestling, and that's kind of what I mean. He's not claiming to be a catch wrestler or anything like that, but in one of his latest social media posts, he talks about catch wrestling. So it's actually over 2 minutes long. I trimmed it a little bit, so it's much shorter. So we're going to go over that right now. So check it out.
The reason why I think catch wrestling is such the superior form of submission grappling in the vein of things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is because you're kind of doing three different sports at one time. Because all catch wrestling is just like Olympic or collegiate wrestling with submissions. Arm bars, neck cranks, toe holds, chokes, everything that you would get at a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the cool thing about that is that all you have to do is not go for the submission, not go for the catch. And then, you you or your child could be on like the high school wrestling team or the college wrestling team. And if MMA is something that you fancy, its focus on top dominance and control makes it very easy to layer in strikes. So I mean, if you're really thinking about it, it's better for collegiate wrestling. It's catch wrestling, obviously. It's good for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions and for MMA. So we're actually talking about like 4 different sports in one. The problem with catch wrestling is just doesn't have like the marketing team that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seems to have, right? Like Joe Rogan isn't into catch wrestling, and even the catch wrestlers that I do know that are popular enough to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, they seem a little timid to even talk about it because they don't want to anger people who are really into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
All right, so that was actually pretty great. And that what I posted right then was the vast majority of his main points. So, which were all really good, and it shows like that he's really got a good understanding of kind of like the state of things and how things work. I'm sure, just because he's also like a gym owner, and he's also seen like how entertainment works, or I think he just understands how like advertising works. But before we get to that part, he mentions like catch wrestling. He starts off saying it's like 3 sports at once, and then later even expands it to 4 sports. So main ones, right? Wrestling, right? So the collegiate, or in the United States, we got the folk style. Actually, I just said that twice. So we got folk style, or it's often called collegiate or scholastic. It's what we do. We do various forms of it in our schools and also our colleges, our universities. But then you also got international freestyle wrestling. And also, you can throw in Greco-Roman wrestling there. So both styles that are done in the Olympics you can all consider that. You can consider catch wrestling to be one of the base styles that you can have that can help you become better, or can help you to adapt to start playing these other wrestling sports like Greco or freestyle, folk style, etc. Right? So he mentions that. So like the amateur wrestling, uh, you also kind of get of course, the jujitsu aspect, right? So getting the idea of getting used to the mat wrestling, the rolling around, trying to get on top, passing guard by like pinning people, also knowing submission holds. So that's like the jiu-jitsu aspect. But then he says, of course, the catch wrestling aspect, right? The sport itself, right? If you actually practice catch wrestling, then you get better at the actual sport itself. But then he also mentions MMA, right? Because that's what we're talking about nowadays. Oh, that was like the big thing a couple weeks ago. That one match that we did a video on, DDP just getting like basically getting dominated, right, by Chimaev with his wrestling ability, and the fighter who had like DDP, who had like the jiu-jitsu background, and like actually it seems as though, according to reading his bio, it seems like he's just done tons and tons of kickboxing, tons of striking. So, and he's done a bunch of jujitsu, it seems, because in his bio it talks about him winning all these jujitsu competitions or whatever. So, wrestling doesn't seem to be the main focus. So, yeah, he got dominated by someone who does wrestling, who does wrestling very well, right? So Big Bang Mike's talking about like at least 4. You got 4 sports in one, right? So the one sport can make you good at, or can help give you a strong, solid foundation, so that you can easily transition to any of these other sports. Last November, I won that jiu-jitsu Pan American Championship, basically just doing catch wrestling. I wasn't ever on my back, never pulled guard, etc. And so, with that being said, one of the other points he makes is that catch wrestling is just more versatile, right? You can do it. You can have it as one of the good bases. And I've talked about this like over the years, where it's like I personally believe there's 2 like sport styles that have, or that can give you a good, solid foundation to add or to do other things. So Catch wrestling is one of them, right? So if you want to be doing stand-up stuff, it's like MMA, where you start standing with a lot of takedowns, um, and then you have the mat wrestling. So once you're on the ground, you have at least some idea about staying on top, not necessarily giving up. Like not going on. It's kind of funny in jujitsu. They'll talk about giving up your back, and that means like you point your back towards the person. But I was kind of thinking like you're not giving up your back by putting it to the mat and then your face up and they're raining elbows and stuff on you. So that's kind of what you're not giving up your back to the mat in my case, right? So um, instead, you're trying to get out from underneath. If you end up underneath, you're trying to stay on top. You're trying to get that top pressure going, so that you can rain down your elbows or do your submission attempts. All right, so yeah, it's just more versatile. And then also, yeah, if you want to compete in jujitsu, kind of like how he said in the video, like you're right there. You're able to win jujitsu competitions as well, right? Um, so and then plus, if you want to do amateur wrestling, great. You could totally do that too. That's what he mentions. Like you or your kid can be on the wrestling team, or you can do jujitsu. The next week. Just with that one base style. So he totally understands it. He totally gets that. But then the next thing, right, that he goes into like so he gives all the positives, and then he goes into what he thinks are the negatives, and he kind of lists two main ones, right? So one, which is very correct, and we kind of talk about the history of jujitsu marketing. But yeah, he talks about marketing. So catch wrestling itself doesn't necessarily have. Actually, I don't even want to say it doesn't necessarily have. Catch wrestling itself doesn't really have. I got to stop adding these extra words. Catch wrestling doesn't have great marketing, right? So you have people who do the like authentic catch wrestling, and hardly only like the most hardcore fans know about them. Like say like my good buddy on the East Coast, John Strickland. You see hardcore fans knowing who John is, but then I'll see more comments about like people thinking about like they got to learn judo or whatever, or sambo or whatever to get good at catch wrestling, or you got to do whatever like amateur style, and then you can do catch wrestling. It's like, no, you can start with catch wrestling uh, right from the beginning. All right, got a good buddy. All right, so hopefully you're still watching, Daniel. So hey, Coach Raul, what's the chat today? I can hear you in my mind. I can hear your voice say that, right? So uh, Daniel is a great guy in New Zealand. So we're talking about uh, social media posts that was done by martial artists here I think he's based in Utah. So, but he talked about just how versatile catch wrestling is. But then he gives like a negative, or what he thinks is the negative about catch wrestling. So it's not the sport itself, but the marketing of it. And so he talks about like it just doesn't have the marketing team behind it like jiu-jitsu does. So let's go ahead and continue talking about that. So I happen to have met over the years one of the guys who was one of the early matchmakers for UFC, right? John Peretti. You can read his book. He was one of the forefathers of MMA nowadays. He designed the MMA gloves. He kind of helped to create the round system, just so MMA can resemble boxing. So it can help make it more acceptable, so it can become legalized in the United States and whatnot. So John Peretti is a real leader, or he was a real leader in early MMA. So so I'm gonna quote him, and you can find his quotes. He's done all. Actually, we did an interview together here in Los Angeles on the No Holds Barred podcast with Eddie Goldman. So you can go back to Eddie Goldman's podcast. It's called the No Holds Barred podcast with John Peretti. John Peretti was on that show several times, and basically the way he describes like the first UFC is, ultimately just marketing for jujitsu. So they said, or he said that, uh, he said when you take a boy in his pajamas and you put him up against guys who can barely tie their shoes, of course he's gonna win, right? So it was very like the opponents were more specifically chosen, I guess, for uh, basically for jujitsu to win, right? And so it's brilliant marketing. They intentionally chose who was going to be competing, and they made it seem as though it was almost like a free for all, and like, but it wasn't quite like that, right? It was always supposed to be a win for jujitsu, and so you can always look all that up. You can go. I would say definitely go ahead and check out John Peretti's book. I think it's called The Origin of the Species. I think. But anyway, just look up his name, John Peretti. You'll find it. Um, he's a really, really great guy. And he'll tell you all about the very early days of MMA. And he even tried to have a pro grappling competition called Battlecade, I believe it was. And yeah, it looks like every once in a while I'll still see clips from it because people think they're MMA matches. So it looks pretty good. Right, so make sure you check out John Peretti because yeah, he's still alive and everything. So and he's on social media and all that too. So he doesn't like he doesn't sugarcoat anything. So if you want to find out all these details, read his book, listen to his interviews, check out his social media. He's been around more, and the one of the other cool things about John Peretti is that he is an actual martial artist, right? He's like a lifelong trained like martial artist, right? He's trained for years and years. He developed his own martial art style, and so it's great. All right. Actually, yeah, it's good. And so, yeah, thanks for chiming in, Daniel. So, but what I like Gracie Jiu Jitsu has done with the Gracie Academy, they made their system work from complete beginner right through clips, technique, etc. So, so what, Dan? This guy? No, yeah. So, yes. So they're great at marketing. They're great at organizing. They're great at, yeah, they're great at so many things, right? So, um, the organization really helps. I know that even they have stuff, yeah, like how you mentioned for children. So you can, like, say, if you're an instructor, you can start by buying their programs, and then you can easily implement them in your academy and stuff. So they're very, very thorough. All right. So the next point in the video that Big Bang Mike makes is, besides, so after the marketing, he says, so then he says, you're not seeing Joe Rogan talk about it, but whenever there are people who claim to do catch wrestling on Joe Rogan's podcast, they're usually really timid about it. And then, so with that being said, also, um, is that, yeah, you'll have people who are popular who claim to be catch wrestlers, or who claim to teach catch wrestling or claim to be doing catch wrestling, but then when they have their tournaments, they turn it into jujitsu, right? So they make like you can be on your back. They kind of basically throw out the pins. They add point systems. They do all these different things to, like, how going to Big Bang Mike's point is, like, they don't want to upset jujitsu. So, yeah, just what I want people to remember, I guess, is that, like, say if you watch ESPN any random time, like, or especially in the middle of the night, right? They got the most random sport on, right? So they have cornhole or all these different things, right? So it's like your sport can exist by itself. It doesn't have to cater to any other thing, right? So catch wrestling doesn't have to cater to jujitsu. um, so I think Mike has a really great point about that, where it's like, if even though there are some people who might be popular enough to get interviewed about catch wrestling or whatever, they're still way too timid about it. All right, Daniel, next question. But catch wrestling has excellent everything, right? Yeah. Catch wrestling does have excellent everything. Um, but I think, yeah, a lot of people will still think that since like jujitsu has the belt system, or you have jujitsu at every like especially here in LA, we have jujitsu at every street corner almost. So I think people do feel like, oh, I must learn jujitsu. I should, because I'm totally missing out, or whatever. But it's not exactly the case, right? Let me see. So next question. Thanks for commenting. Teo, man, I love pin or submit rules more than IBJJF rules. Yeah, totally. There's because also too, it's like losing by points or whatever. It just it's I guess it can be soul crushing, right? Because especially if the person's not really dominating you, and then all of a sudden time's up, and um, you lost by points, or IBJJF, right? It's like you lost by an advantage. Like they believe that the person had a little bit more of an advantage, but they didn't have enough of an advantage to earn a point for it, right? So um, you're totally right. Let's see. Yeah. So actually, so then for those of you who came in late, let me see if I can. Let me show. Let's go and show the video. So it's just a minute long. I cut it down, but Big Bang Mike on social media and also on YouTube. He is talking about catch wrestling.
The reason why I think catch wrestling is such the superior form of submission grappling in the vein of things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is because you're kind of doing three different sports at one time. Because all catch wrestling is just like Olympic or collegiate wrestling with submissions. Arm bars, neck cranks, toe holds, chokes, everything that you would get at a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the cool thing about that is that all you have to do is not go for the submission, not go for the catch, and then, you or your child could be on like the high school wrestling team or the college wrestling team. And if MMA is something that you fancy, its focus on top dominance and control makes it very easy to layer in strikes. So I mean, if you're really thinking about it, it's better for collegiate wrestling. It's catch wrestling, obviously. It's good for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions and for MMA. So we're actually talking about like 4 different sports in one. The problem with catch wrestling is it just doesn't have like the marketing team that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seems to have, right? Like Joe Rogan isn't into catch wrestling, and even the catch wrestlers that I do know that are popular enough to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, they seem a little timid to even talk about it because they don't want to anger people who are really into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, so that's kind of like hopefully those of you who tuned in a little late, hopefully that helped you get up to speed. So we're just talking about that clip in particular. It's on his Instagram, but he's also here on YouTube. So go ahead and give him a follow. And he has his own school in Utah, but yeah, he's not claiming to be a catch wrestler, but he just happens to appreciate it, right? So I think I really appreciate his appreciation of catch wrestling. But he's basically right on so many levels, right? So it's like the Gracies are just brilliant marketers, and they really knew the timing to do UFC one, to then take advantage of and it's like that was the other thing. It's like so even when they went to fight Sakuraba in Japan, it's like their dominance was already like solidified, right? Everyone was already thinking, oh, it's I have to learn jujitsu. So even though Sakuraba won, it didn't matter anymore, right? Because Sakuraba could have been talking about catch wrestling all day, and that one win doesn't mean anything because, like, in the mind of the audience, right? Uh, Jiu-jitsu is already on top, right? So brilliant marketing overall, right? So then that's why I said also was the idea where he's talking about like, oh, if someone who seems to know catch wrestling goes on Joe Rogan, they don't want to upset like jujitsu people. So yeah, it's like you like how I mentioned, you'll even see it in their tournaments if they run a tournament, right? They're just doing like they add points. Uh they don't do what's called like the pin so much, or you can stay in guard and all these different things. Um, so it's kind of like catch wrestling can stand on its own, and you can really promote that, like actual catch wrestling, and you don't need to be trying to pull in like jujitsu, or you don't need to be trying to. You don't have to be anything that you don't have to be anything else, or you don't have to be anything for everybody. So you can just be doing catch wrestling. That's why every once in a while here we'll talk about jujitsu, right? Because ultimately I think we can give our opinions on all kinds of grappling because because like how even in the video it's like Big Bang Mike says like catch wrestling is like four sports in one. You got catch wrestling, MMA, amateur wrestling, and jujitsu. You have so many things together, and I guess you could probably even throw in judo, right? Because we have all the takedowns. So whenever I talk about a takedown, then inevitably people are like, "Oh, I learned something in judo that's kind of similar or whatever." So let's go ahead and add judo in there. But yeah, it's like catch wrestling as a foundation can make it so you can do all these other sports well, right? So it's not just like giving you an idea of grappling. It actually is giving you a very deep understanding of grappling. So I think you like, of course, it's a catch wrestling channel. So in my opinion, would be like, yeah, catch wrestling base could prepare you to just dominate judo. I think it's way better than judo. Like you can do way more with catch wrestling than with judo. Um, and so same idea how like Mike said is like with the catch wrestling base, you or your kid do could do really well and or they could be on the wrestling team at their school or their university or whatever. So or you can win jujitsu tournaments, right? Just by studying and training in authentic catch wrestling. But oh yeah, he also makes that point where it's rare to find authentic catch wrestling. So if you have it, you should really take advantage. Um, so that. So with that being said, like we're here in LA, you can come train with us on Thursday nights at Fight Science MMA, or if you have any access to the gym at the university, it's called UCLA. Uh, we're going to be starting up again soon. I think closer to the end of September. So they're still in this, in their summer break, and usually we start later than other universities. So, but anyway, we're gonna have tons of classes, and like I mentioned earlier, like I just got the email about the schedule. So I just got to look at it, and then I'll come back next time and let you know because I didn't get to see like all of the times and all the timing, but they want me to teach a bunch of different classes. So we're going to have a lot of things going on if you happen to have access, or you can't. Basically, it's a public school, so you can get access, um, but I'm not sure exactly how. So you have to look it up. And but we do have people from time to time who are like the family members of a student, or the family members of person who works there and stuff. So there's all these different ways to gain access. I'm just not an expert on that. I just go there to teach. But yeah, we do have people coming in who like aren't students, and they're all ages, and except for like they're not kids, right? So they're young adults to older adults. So everyone's welcome. So hopefully you saw the video, and hopefully you understand kind of like the state of catch wrestling and Big Bang Mike is like just kind of put it all together like in such a short, nice, tight package. So hopefully you can understand, right? So yeah, I personally believe finding an authentic teacher is very rare. We're having more and more people who are claiming to know it, or they maybe they come from some other style, like say like judo is a common thing where it's like they've done some takedowns, so then they think they know catch wrestling, but the mat wrestling is different than judo. Um, Also, we have less rules than judo. Right? I think they're just allowing people to grab legs and stuff like that again. So that was never off. Like catch wrestling or catch as catch can means that you start at a neutral position. You're not touching the other person, but then once the match starts, you can grab them like you can grab a leg, you can grab an arm, you can grab their head, you can grab their wrist, right? So that's really what it means. Um, and so, like unlike other styles who have different rules, or actually a lot of rules, and so one of the points Mike was saying is that if you have this style as your base, you can be good at all these other things who have more rules. So you just have to adapt to rules basically, or having more rules. All right. So feel free to ask any more questions or make any more comments. Hopefully you kind of understood, and if you appreciate what we're doing, feel free to become a channel member, or you can come train with us at Fight Science. You can do one-off courses on our website, catchwrestlingalliance.com. You can become also like one of our students on our CWA Academy on our website, catchwrestlingalliance.com. The member section I think is really worth it because there's tons of extra videos based off of members' questions. Uh, it, it's it's really great. And so then if you become a member and you have any questions, we make videos specifically to help solve your problems. Um, yeah, so it's really great. So with that being said, I think maybe we'll call it here. Appreciate Big Bang Mike, appreciate Daniel, appreciate Teo for commenting. So I think we all understand the nature of or the state of catch wrestling, right? So thank you to all of you, actually even Daniel for really being into catch wrestling and wanting to learn catch wrestling and wanting to do catch wrestling, because it's kind of like the whole motto of our whole channel, right? It's like we want you to wrestle better so that together we can keep real wrestling alive. All right, thank you. See you next time.